where Lagos wife and corporate lawyer Amaka catches a single unmistakable scent on her husband's collar, the same perfume she gifted her own sister, she does not cry, confront, or collapse. Instead, she goes silent. For 3 months, she watches, plans, and prepares with the precision of a woman who knows the law, knows betrayal, and refuses to lose. When the moment finally arrives, she doesn't raise her voice. She places a brown envelope on the dinner table and waits. A story not about a woman who was broken by betrayal, but about one who used it as a blueprint. The first time Amaka noticed it, she almost convinced herself that she was wrong. It was a Tuesday evening in October, the kind of evening where the Lagos traffic had been so bad that Chidi came home looking like a man who had been squeezed through a narrow pipe. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie was loose, and his eyes carried the flat, tired look of someone who had spent too long inside a go-slow on the Third Mainland Bridge. She met him at the door the way she always did, with a glass of cold water and a small smile. And when he leaned in to give her the usual quick kiss on her cheek, she caught it, just for a second. A familiar sweetness hanging in the air around his collar, warm and floral and unmistakably real. She stepped back, looked at his face, and he was already moving past her toward the bedroom, pulling at his tie, asking what was for dinner. She stood in the hallway for a moment longer than she needed to. The smell stayed with her the way certain things do, like the memory of a song you heard once in a place you can never go back to. She told herself it was nothing. She told herself that Lagos was a city of 12 million people and that scents travel on the air and attach themselves to fabric, and that there was no reason to stand in her own hallway feeling cold in her chest over a smell. She went to the kitchen and finished warming the egusi soup. She served her husband's plate first the way she had always done. She sat across from him at the dinner table and watched him eat and talk about his day. A contract that was dragging, a colleague who had annoyed him, a new policy at the office that made no sense. She laughed in the right places. She asked the right questions. She was a very good wife, and she had been a very good wife for 9 years. And she continued being one all the way through dinner and through the evening news and through the moment they turned off the lights and lay in the dark side by side. But she did not sleep for a long time. She lay there listening to his breathing slow into the easy rhythm of a man with nothing on his conscience, and she thought about the smell. She named it in her mind carefully, the way you might name something dangerous before you decide what to do with it. The perfume was called Belle Âme. It came in a slim bottle with a gold stopper. It was French brand, not cheap, not common. She knew this because she had bought it herself as a birthday gift 3 months ago for her younger sister, Ngozi. The second time she noticed it, she was sure. It was a Friday, 5 weeks after the Tuesday in October. Chidi had gone to what he said was a work dinner in Victoria Island. A new client, very important, could run late, don't wait up. Amaka had waited up anyway, not out of suspicion, but out of habit, sitting in the living room with a book she was not really reading. When he came in just after 11, she got up to take his jacket the way she sometimes did, and the smell hit her so cleanly and so fully that she had to breathe through her mouth for a second to hold her face still. It was not a gust of a scent this time. It was Belle Âme, strong and complete, the way a perfume smells when it is pressed directly into fabric from close skin. She hung his jacket on the hook by the door and said she was tired and went to the bedroom. She lay in the dark and she did not think about Chidi. She thought about Ngozi. She thought about her sister's voice on the phone 2 weeks ago, a little too bright, a little too busy. I can't do Sunday lunch this week, Amaka. Something came up. I'll call you next week. She thought about how Ngozi had not called the week after. She thought about the last time she had seen her sister in person at their mother's house in Surulere, and how Ngozi had been wearing a new silk blouse, and how she had not met Amaka's eyes for very long. Amaka lay there and felt something settle into place inside her with a quiet, terrible click, the way the last piece of a puzzle does. Not a relief, just a finality. She knew. She was completely sure. And she decided, lying there in the dark in her 9-year marriage, that she was not going to say a single word about it. Not yet. Not until she was ready. The thing about carrying a secret that belongs to other people is that it changes the way you see everything. In the 3 months that followed, Amaka watched her husband and her sister with new eyes. Quiet eyes, patient eyes, the kind of eyes that do not betray themselves. She watched Chidi on his phone in the evenings, the small angle of his shoulder turning slightly away from her when a message came in. The practiced casualness of a man who had been practicing for a while. She watched Ngozi at family gatherings. Christmas was in December, and their mother insisted on the whole family coming. And Ngozi came, and Chidi came, and Amaka sat at the table and watched them not look at each other too directly, and then look at each other too quickly when they thought no one was watching. It was almost impressive, she thought. They had developed a whole language of avoidance, a careful choreography of not touching and not speaking, and if she had not already known what she was looking for, she might have missed it entirely. But she knew, and so she saw everything, and she stored it all inside herself like a woman filling a jar slowly, steadily, one drop at a time. She was not idle during those 3 months. Amaka worked as a lawyer, corporate law, contracts and disputes, and she was good at her work for the same reason she was good at this. She understood that the most effective action is rarely the fastest one. While Chidi went to his evening meetings and Ngozi sent short, cheerful voice notes pretending everything was normal, Amaka was busy. She consulted a colleague she trusted about the matrimonial property they jointly owned, a house in Lekki Phase 1 that was registered in both names, and a plot of land in Naija that Chidi had asked to be put in his name alone back in 2019, which she had agreed to without thinking much about it at the time. She now thought about it very carefully. She spoke to a financial advisor about her own accounts, which she quietly separated and reorganized. She found a therapist, not because she was falling apart, but because she needed somewhere to put the weight of what she was carrying while she walked, and the therapist was a sensible woman who did not tell her what to do, but helped her stay clear-headed. She cried exactly twice in those 3 months, once in the therapist's office and once in her car in the parking lot of a ShopRite in Ikeja on a Saturday afternoon when a song that meant nothing particular to her came on the radio, and she was suddenly, briefly, overwhelmed by the specific grief of being betrayed by the 2 people she had loved most freely. Then she wiped her face, went inside and bought groceries. The plan, when it was ready, was not dramatic. It was thorough. On a Weddings Day evening in late January, when Chidi came home and sat down at the dinner table expecting the usual warm meal and the usual easy conversation, Amaka placed a brown envelope next to his plate instead of a serving spoon. Inside the envelope were 2 things: printed copies of the WhatsApp messages she had accessed from a backed-up cloud account, enough messages to make denial impossible, and a letter from her solicitor outlining the terms under which she was willing to proceed with a quiet separation, protecting both the Lekki property and her claim on the Aja plot. She had also that afternoon called her sister. The call was short. She had told Ngozi only this: "I know. I have known for 3 months. I am not calling to fight with you. I am calling to tell you that whatever you thought you were building with my husband, it is finished now, and you should take some time to think about what kind of person you want to be." Then she hung up. Chidi stared at the envelope for a long time without opening it. Amaka poured herself a glass of water and sat across from him and waited. She looked like a woman who had already made her peace with whatever came next, because she had. She had spent 3 months making her peace, one careful day at a time, and she was ready. The perfume had told her everything she needed to know, and she had used every day since to make sure that when this moment came, she would be the one holding the envelope, and he would be the one with nothing left to see.